This is the final episode of Season 1. We've covered a lot of ground: the coordination tax and where your budget actually goes, the coming automation of project management tasks, the organizations already operating without traditional project managers, the historical arc from craft to algorithm, the achievements and limitations of Agile. Now I want to answer the question you might be asking: why now? People have predicted the automation of management work for decades. Expert systems in the 1980s. Business process re-engineering in the 90s. Digital transformation in the 2000s. Each wave promised fundamental change. Each wave delivered incremental improvement at best. Why is this time different? The answer is convergence. Multiple forces are aligning simultaneously. Any one of them would create pressure for change. Together, they create a tipping point. Let me walk you through each force. Force 1, AI capabilities have crossed critical thresholds. I'm not talking about incremental improvement. I'm talking about step change. Large language models can now understand context, nuance, and intent. They can read a status report and identify the real issues. They can analyze a backlog and suggest prioritization. They can draft stakeholder communications that require only light editing. 2 years ago, this wasn't possible. Today, it's routine. Machine learning models can now predict project outcomes with remarkable accuracy. They can identify patterns in historical data that humans miss. They can forecast delays before traditional indicators show problems. They can suggest resource allocations that optimize for constraints humans can't hold in their heads. Automation tools can now orchestrate complex workflows without human intervention. Route work based on context. Escalate exceptions automatically. Coordinate across systems that previously required manual integration. The technology isn't coming. It's here. The only question is adoption. Force 2. Remote work normalized digital-first operations. The pandemic compressed a decade of change into 18 months. Before 2020, most organizations assumed work required physical presence. Meetings happened in conference rooms. Coordination happened in hallways. Management happened through observation. Then, suddenly, everyone was remote. And something interesting happened. Work became digital by necessity. Every task, every communication, every decision had to flow through digital systems. There was no hallway. There was no conference room. There was only the tools. This created infrastructure for algorithmic coordination. When work is digital, it's visible to systems. When communication is digital, it's analyzable. When decisions are digital, they're trackable. Before the pandemic, the coordination data was scattered, some in email, some in meetings, some in hallway conversations that left no trace. Now, the data exists. AI can use it. Force 3. New generations expect different organizational models. People entering the workforce today grew up digital. They've coordinated group projects through Discord. They've built communities on Reddit. They've collaborated on creative work through platforms that didn't exist a decade ago. They find traditional corporate coordination bizarre. Why do I need to be in a meeting to share information I could post in a channel? Why does my manager need to approve something that has clear criteria? Why do I need to report status that's already visible in the system? These aren't complaints from lazy workers. They're legitimate questions that expose how much coordination overhead we've normalized. Gen Z won't tolerate what millennials accepted. Millennials didn't tolerate what boomers accepted. Each generation has less patience for unnecessary friction. Organizations that don't adapt will struggle to attract and retain talent. The best people will go where the friction is lowest. Force 4. Economic pressure demands efficiency. The era of cheap money is over. Interest rates have risen. Venture funding has tightened. Public market valuations demand profitability, not just growth. For 2 decades, organizations could grow their way out of inefficiency. Revenue growing 30% per year covers a lot of waste. When growth slows, waste becomes visible. The coordination tax is waste, 25 to 40% of resources going to overhead. In a growth environment, that's tolerable. In a margin environment, it's not. CFOs are asking harder questions. Why do we have this many project managers? What value does the PMO actually add? Could we deliver the same outcomes with less overhead? These questions used to be theoretical. Now they have answers. AI can do much of what human coordinators do. The economics are compelling. Force 5. Pioneer organizations are proving it works. This is perhaps the most important force. 10 years ago, operating without traditional project management was theoretical, interesting in concept, unproven in practice. Today, we have evidence. Netflix operates at massive scale without project managers. Their stock has outperformed. Their innovation continues. Their culture is envied. Spotify's squad model enabled growth from startup to public company without the management bureaucracy that typically accumulates. Haier eliminated 10,000 middle managers and became the world's largest appliance manufacturer. GitHub coordinates millions of developers on open source projects through platform mechanics, not human coordinators. Tesla and SpaceX accomplish what established competitors can't, with radically different organizational models. The pioneers have proven the model works. Now, it's not about whether it's possible, it's about whether you'll do it. These 5 forces are converging right now. AI that can actually coordinate, digital infrastructure to support it, workforce expectations demanding it, economic pressure requiring it, pioneer proof validating it. Any one of these forces would create pressure. All 5 together create inevitability. Let me explain why the tipping point isn't gradual. There's a concept in complex systems called phase transition. Water doesn't gradually become ice. It stays liquid, then suddenly crystallizes. The temperature drops steadily, but the change happens all at once. Organizational change works similarly. For years, nothing seems to change. Experiments happen on the margins. Pioneers are dismissed as special cases. The mainstream continues as always. Then, suddenly, everything shifts. What was radical becomes normal. What was normal becomes obsolete. The transition happens faster than anyone expected. Think about how quickly other transitions happened. Smartphones went from zero to ubiquitous in less than a decade. In 2007, almost no one had one. By 2015, almost everyone did. Cloud computing went from exotic to default in about the same time. In 2010, most companies ran their own data centers. By 2020, most were primarily in the cloud. Remote work went from rare to normal in 18 months. Not because attitudes gradually shifted, because circumstances forced sudden change. Algorithmic coordination is on the same trajectory. Right now, it seems like the future. Soon, it will be the present. Then it will be obvious, and people will wonder why we ever coordinated any other way. I want to share something I've observed in the past year. The conversation has shifted. 2 years ago, when I talked about AI replacing coordination tasks, people were skeptical. That's interesting in theory, but our work is too complex. AI can't understand context. We need human judgment. Today, the same people are asking different questions. How do we implement this? What tools should we use? How do we manage the transition? The shift from whether to how is the leading indicator of a tipping point. Let me be specific about what I'm seeing. Organizations are quietly reducing coordination headcount, not announcing AI replacements, just not backfilling project coordinator roles when people leave, consolidating PMO functions, automating status reporting. Tools are embedding coordination intelligence. Jira's new AI features suggest priorities and identify blockers. Monday.com auto-adjusts timelines. Asana predicts completion dates. Microsoft Copilot drafts project summaries. Vendors are pivoting their messaging. Project management tool companies now talk about AI-powered delivery. Consultancies are retraining their workforces. Certification bodies are scrambling to stay relevant. The infrastructure for the post-project world is being built quietly, rapidly, while most people aren't paying attention. So where does this leave us? If you're a project manager, program manager, or coordination professional, you have a choice to make. Option 1. Denial. This won't affect me. My work is too complex. My relationships are too valuable. I'll be fine. Some people will be fine with this approach, at least for a while. But the trend is clear. Denying it doesn't change it. Option 2. Resistance. Fight the change. Argue that humans are essential. Protect the current model. History shows how this ends. The guilds resisted industrialization. They lost. Resistance delays transition. It doesn't prevent it. Option 3. Adaptation. Accept that the transition is coming. Understand what changes and what remains. Evolve into the roles that algorithms enable but can't replace. This is the path forward. The good news is this. The post-project world needs humans. Desperately. It needs people who can design the outcomes that systems optimize. It needs people who can architect the flows that value streams through. It needs people who can ensure that autonomous systems operate ethically. It needs people who can shape how organizations think and adapt. These are not lesser roles. They are greater ones. The coordination work, the status meetings, the reporting, the chasing that was never the valuable part. It was overhead, friction, the tax we pay to get things done. When that overhead is automated, humans are freed for work that actually uses our capabilities. Strategic thinking, ethical judgment, creative problem solving, building relationships. The post-project world isn't about humans doing less. It's about humans doing better. This concludes Season 1. We've established the problem. The coordination tax that drains organizational resources, the evidence from pioneer organizations, the historical arc that shows this is continuation, not disruption. The convergence of forces creating a tipping point. In Season 2, we turn to the solution. What replaces traditional project management? How do organizations actually operate in the post-project world? What systems enable algorithmic coordination? What practices replace the ceremonies we've known? I'll introduce ORBA-OS, the organizational operating system, not a methodology, not a framework. An operating system for how organizations coordinate in the algorithmic age. We'll go deep on the 4 layers. Values, flow, intelligence, human. We'll explore new practices that replace old ceremonies. Sense circles instead of stand-ups. Flow reviews instead of sprint reviews. Consciousness calibration instead of retrospectives. And we'll examine what this means for how organizations think, adapt, and evolve. Thank you for listening to Season 1 of the Post-Project World. If these ideas resonate, I'd ask you to share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it. A colleague, a team member, a leader who's asking the right questions. Change doesn't happen because ideas are right. It happens because ideas spread. Calculate your own coordination tax at orbaos.com. The number might surprise you. It surprised me. I'm Luigi Rondanini. This has been the Post-Project World. See you in Season 2.